All right, guys, so now that I've showed you how to separate all the tracks as best as we can for the purpose of resampling, we're gonna dive right into it and get into the drums first so that we have something to play along to the whole time. To touch on this a little bit more, you might not actually keep these in at the end when we bounce down our final sample. So I usually do one bounce with the drums, one bounce without the drums. You can kind of play with it a little bit more without the beat being in there, but for the sake of authenticity, you might want to keep it in and stay with the practices of how they used to use samples back in the day. To do this, let's see, we're going to open up a software instrument here and going to go to the drum kits because it's a live kit that we're replicating here. And I'm going to use this Brooklyn kit, which is kind of like the most flat line sonically. Not necessarily the sounds are flat, but like it has the least amount of character, but sounds just the most normal. It sounds like the most average drum kit. All the others tend to have a little more characteristic to them one way or another, which is cool. I'm a huge fan of the Logic drum kits. I use them all the time. Sometimes I'll bounce down a little drum fill and I'll use that as a sample to really pop in your production. You can really make them like pop out. So let's see, I got my kit open here. We're gonna listen back and see if we can maybe isolate a little sound to make this a little easier on us. Luckily, the drum beat isn't too crazy. So listening here, I'm gonna take this EQ like we have and cut out all the bass so that we can maybe hear, because we know that the kick is just a 4 on the floor. There's a little kick pickup in there we might add in, but if you listen, there's a little hi-hat pickup. Otherwise, I think it's just 16th notes. So let's see if we can record that in. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna do half of our section here because we can just duplicate it later, save a little time, since it's the same repeated. So going into our MIDI, I'm gonna select all after clicking down here in the MIDI region window. So I select all the little MIDI regions that we just created, and I'm gonna hit the Q button, and that'll lock them all right into grid. Nothing too crazy from there. Let's double check it. Sounds pretty straight up. Now we're gonna add on top of that the kick and snare pattern, which are also just pretty straightforward, so. And that is it. You see I got the kick in there, the velocity hits are coming in nice and hot, and the kick and snare, so they're nice and punchy. Gonna go back down to this MIDI region, whoops. Click on here, select all, and quantize that. And now we're going to take this loop function and duplicate that section. And there you have it. What's cool about the Logic drums is that we can go back in here and tweak the sounds individually if we wanted to. If you're really focused on keeping them, I would definitely spend a lot more time making these sound amazing and more specific to what I'm imagining. You can also change the kit entirely. Retro rock is gonna kind of give you that 70s classic rock. Scientific Method. I don't know what Scientific Method is, but they're actually really cool and very tight sounding drums. So if you want a really dry, kind of older sounding kit, this one's not bad. But let's see here. Okay, so the quantize didn't do a great job, and we have this note that's off that I'm just gonna fix by dragging that over. Everything else is looking pretty good. I see we got some weird hits in here. Okay, cool. So a good little workaround, since it's the same loop over and over again, we're just gonna loop the first couple bars here. Perfect. So it doesn't have to be perfect, especially since we might not be keeping these. So I'm not too precious about the drums. But coming up next in some of our lessons down the road, I'm gonna show you guys how we redo the bass, redo the guitar and synths and stuff like that, and continuing the process of remaking our sample. Stick around.